Hello, science fiction lovers, and welcome to my channel. I'm Peg, and I love reading science fiction. So today I'm going, since it's the last day of the month, finally got my list together for my first challenge called Sci-Fi September. Is that perfect for me or what? I'm so looking forward to it, in fact, that I've been guilty of contacting other booktubers who I just like a lot, and they may not even be science fiction fans, and asking them if they want to join. So my apologies if well, anyway, nobody seemed really offended. I mean, some people thought even if they didn't like fiction, they might like to look at the list. So anyway, I'm looking forward, of course, to seeing what all the other people in the challenge are reading, and several of them have already put theirs up, and it's great fun to see. This is hosted by Becky Bookworm, and I'll try to put her link at the bottom here, because I know she came out today saying she'd still like to see more join. Anyway, so without further ado, I'm going to go through my list of books and show you, and not really say that much about them for the most part. Okay, there's 5 different things on the list. The first one is a book having a strong female protagonist. This is a book that was written in 2015, and I usually read only the very new books, but this is a book that was referred to by several people who I really respect their judgment as the best science fiction fantasy book they read that year. So it is called the Traitor by Cormanat. Anyway, I don't know too much about it. I did kind of peek a little bit, and it looks like it has a lot of political intrigue, and sure enough, there is a very, very strong main character, Baru herself. Before I watched BookTube, I didn't even know about this book. In fact, I knew very little about fantasy at all, and I've learned just in the few months I've been watching BookTube that I really like a lot of the fantasy. It's not all just dragons and elves, and I've really expanded my tastes, you might say, in the speculative fiction world. Okay, the next on the list is a novel set on the moon, and I found this in the library, and it's called Alan Steele, Avengers of the Moon, or maybe it's by Alan Steele. Yeah, it's by Alan Steele. And from what I've read, this continues the adventures of the group or people or whatever that were written in an older series. In fact, during the golden age of science fiction, which was in the 1950s, and they had to get permission from the former author's estate to write this book. So that should be interesting. And I guess surely it'll be on the moon if the moon is in the title. Okay, the next one is a novel with a spaceship on the cover. For that, I chose Revenger by Alastair Reynolds, and I believe this is fairly new, and it also, I've heard some science fiction lovers I really like their recommendations talk about, and I think it's one of those books that might be a little tough getting into, but rewards you for time spent and your effort into getting into it. I believe it was Tom at SFF 180 who talked about this several months ago, and he's just great. He is really Mr. Science Fiction. He's a Steve Donahue of science fiction, because he gets all the new books and from the publishers, and then does videos showing what's going to be coming up. he also goes to all the conventions, sci-fi conventions, and puts out great vlogs. In fact, this weekend will be in. He's already said he's already there in Orlando, where there is actually the first BookTube Fest going on this weekend. Anyway, so I'm anxious to give that a try. Next is something written by a woman. Okay. This is good. Where is it? Okay. Now, I can't actually show you the book I'm going to read for this challenge because it is not going to be published until September 26th. That will give me 5 days to read it. But I'll have everything finished by then and just read. But it is a new novel by Anne Leckie called Provenance. Now, you probably remember, most of you, if you're into sci-fi or maybe not, she recently completed a trilogy. Is that upside down? Yeah. A trilogy that won all kinds of awards. I think the first two in the series won at least the Hugo and one other. I'm not sure about the third, but they're all just fantastic. Again, these are ones that take some getting used to as you start, but really repay you with an interesting story. And I just loved it. So actually, I'm going to try to reread these before the new one, which is not a part of the series, comes out on September 26th. But just for my own pleasure, I'm going to try to reread these. Okay, and the last category is science fiction novel written before 2000. Now, as I said, I usually like to read the really new stuff, but I'm also becoming more interested in the history of sci-fi and how it came along and started out. And a kind I really like was originally titled Cyberpunk science fiction, and it deals, of course, with the computers and getting lost in that world and strange goings on the web. But I'm reading actually 2 books I have picked out that were seminal novels of the cyberpunk movement. The earliest one is by Neil Stephenson called Snow Crash, and I used to see people everywhere reading this when it first came out. I still have no idea what it's about, but it was written, I believe, in 1983, so we got some real early computer talk, which might be interesting, what they thought the computers were going to come to. And the other one is by my other favorite cyberpunk author, and it's Necromancer by William Gibson. And this was written a little later, I think, maybe in 2000 or right before there itself, but it also has been very famous. So both of these two I've been meaning to read. Okay, tomorrow is September 1st, and I will be up and start reading, and hope you guys are going to be putting forth your TBRs for September and your finish ups from August. It's really fun to see all that. Okay, bye.